Ladies and gents, thanks for joining me here in Resolve from Reality. Before we get going, please do like, share, subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Also, the email address for the show is contactrr@protonmail.com for suggestions for guests and topics, and the handle for Twitter is @resolvingr. So we're just going to get into a few different bits and pieces here today, starting off with the protests in Coolock in North County Dublin over the mass immigration issue. So we'll get into that first of all. Also, Simon Harris is probably going to end up being the Taoiseach. We'll talk about that, some other bits and pieces as well. So here we go. Here's footage from the protests in North County Dublin. So a good few thousand in attendance here. Really, really nice to see. Actually, the mainstream newspapers, as usual, tend to kind of play this down. One of them said there's like 1,000 people or over 1,000, probably begrudgingly, but a really good turnout, really good to see. So the story goes that this isn't new. The Coolock area has protested quite a bit. There was another one last year as well. So you'll see footage of that shortly. But the have an article there. I'm just going to read that while that's playing there. So there's a warehouse is being considered to house 500 asylum seekers, quote unquote, by the Department of Integration. So, Department of Integration. So, obviously, people are a little bit pissed off about that one. So you can see them walking the streets there. The video footage, courtesy of I think it's as a shout out to Fergus Power, Paul Nolan, and I can't remember the other couple of names. I think that's who was filming here. So, really nice to see that good spirit. There's a few groups in attendance there off the top of my head. National Party are in attendance, some independents as well. The nighttime protests.
Maybe no idea the size of the crowd here tonight, lads, right? Out in Coolock. Proper Irish people standing up for their families and their communities.
Actually, he said proper Irish people. I think that's a super accurate statement, because what's going on there really is that that's how people should be reacting to the mass immigration problem. The only people who don't react like that are usually the brainwashed lefties that we're always talking about here. The people who start shouting racism and so on. So absolutely 100% with that statement.
How are you, lads? Look at the size of this crowd. I'll do that side as well, look. How are you, lads? How are you? How are you doing, buddy? How are you?
Nice community feel to that.
Couldn't afford it. The size of this crowd, lads. Brilliant.
So a few thousand by the looks of it. Some people saying 3,000 thereabouts, maybe a little bit more.
Hey, yeah. How are you doing, Harry?
So straight away, that's more than 1,000 anyway. Much more.
Proper Irish people had enough of this fucking shite. It's time for all these demons in this government to go. Simple as that. The support out here is phenomenal.
Nice, man.
Make it proud to be Irish. Tell you that here now. Go on, Coolock.
Yeah, that one there was Fergus Power. This one here is from nighttime protests last year, I think it was. So me personally, I'm from a working class background myself, and I kind of always thought there's a tremendous amount of confidence there, and certainly people from those areas tend to be not shy. So I've been waiting for them to kind of start to express that a little bit more, and it looks like it's kicking off there. There's several areas like that in and around Dublin. Coolock is in the north side. That's been around quite a long time. It's a really old area, very, very strong community there. So, 500 asylum seekers, quote unquote, into an old factory. I think it's Crown Paints. I read that somewhere. Well, they got their wish. Leo's gone anyway. So there's the article here from Dublin Live. Coolock warehouse may house 500 asylum seekers. Protests continue. That was on the 23rd of March, so just a few days ago. Yes, so the proposal is for modular units placed inside the warehouse, providing mixed-use accommodation for families, couples, singles. Jesus, just packing them in like sardines here and into factories, old factories. So that's just typical. Now the response. So that's really good to see the kind of more nationalistic, well, I hope they're considered nationalistic mentality there of protests and mass immigration, the whole globalist stuff. And that's really good that that's kind of rising up. Then you've got obviously the other side then, the political left as usual. So I'm going to show you some tweets here. I'm just looking at the attitude here. Right? So there's one there. Coolock's potential Hitler youth being coaxed to sing "Get Them Out." So that's one of the shouts they've been making, the protesters saying just get them out, referring to the migrants. So here we go, straight away with the stereotype, straight into comparing them to Nazis. So the Hitler youth, right, just because people are saying get them out. And so, let's keep in mind here that whenever the political left, the Marxist crazies in Ireland, they're always protesting and making noise, and that's okay. It's okay for them to stop traffic and shout and come up with all these slogans and stuff, and that's fine, and it's great revolutionary action. But the minute anyone does anything that they don't like, all of a sudden they're Nazi, fascist, usual far right stuff. So it's all predictable really. Here's another one. So shocking, Irish society is increasingly throwing up scenes many claimed would be impossible to imagine in Ireland. Well, not really, no. It's just for people like that who don't understand what they're doing to the place, and the people are going to get angry. So not just the far right, there you go, but political leaders north and south are lending credibility to this hate by describing it as people having legitimate concerns. All right, so what this person is saying, that people don't have legitimate concerns. So a massive amount of ego on display here as usual. And I don't know if that person is from that area, but it's irrelevant. If they are from that area, they're brainwashed. If they're not from the area, what they're saying is they know better than the people in that area what's best for that area. A bit more virtue signaling, right? So they're just saying that it's terrible what they're doing here. They're indoctrinating kids. Isn't that terrible? Let's not forget that the reason why Ireland is riddled with Marxism and all these crazy brainwashed activists like this person tweeting here, whether they're actually politically active or not, the reason why is because they've been indoctrinating people for years. So again, we've got a double standard there. So if someone's standing around encouraging kids to shout, get them out, that's horrible and far right brainwashing, but the Marxists are allowed to indoctrinate people all they want to. So just typical double standards again, really. So there we go. So there's the classic. See that there? As someone from Coolock. Now I believe him, but that's not the point. They always do that one to try and to give some legitimacy to what they're saying. So I'm embarrassed to see such a large group of misguided people with such a lack of empathy parading through the town. The people of Coolock should be better than applauding far right assholes spouting racist untruths. Right, so they're just actually getting destroyed in the comments there. So that's good to see as well. So if you just see some crazy person making a tweet and it's not responded, then things are really bad. But you can see here they're just getting dismantled. So just accusing everybody of being far right. So the usual crack there. And this one here is drone footage. Shout out to the Irish channel, I suppose it's their video here. It looks like drone footage to me. So Coolock says no, and some nice drone footage just to the crowd. So what do you think about the numbers there we're looking at? So on the other side of the equation, you'll always have these nationalist protests and people people starting to complain about what's going on, which is a really good thing, and starting to kind of kick up about what's happening. But you'll always get the political left here. They'll keep doing. They probably think that they're not protesting enough. Clearly, the message isn't getting across that everybody else shouldn't be racist. So there we go. Galway is riddled with Marxism. You got the university there. There's always something going on there. Always some sort of protest. So this one here is reported by RT News. Over 400 participate anti-racism rally in Galway. So they would be mortified with themselves not to get out and protest. And they always try to do it to counter what the more patriotic or nationalistic side is doing elsewhere in the country. So you see the groups there, Galway communities, there's the traveller communities for non-Irish viewers. That would be what people would call gypsies, I suppose, but travellers. So that what the Marxists like to do is grab these groups who feel disenfranchised and get them together. So you've got a bunch of migrants, gypsy groups protesting there. and that was on the 23rd as well. So on the same day, on Saturday 23rd, the same day as the one in Coolock. So there we go, Galway Traveller Movement, the Galway branch of the Ireland Palestine Solidarity Campaign as well. So anti-racism, discrimination, blah blah blah, the usual. Such racist discourse is not a new phenomenon. So there we go, some more brainwashing, and there you go, the more multiculturalized flags there as usual. So anti-racism training needs to be mandatory in all workplaces. So this, you're always going to find somebody trying to back up the narrative there. It's not difficult to find this. So Galway's always something going on over there, over in the west. University town, so there's always constant stream of these brainwashed activists. So whenever you get nationalist groups trying to protest, you're always going to get the political left then trying to derail things, play things down, make it seem like there's more of them than there actually is, and make it seem like they're more representative of the community at large, which isn't true at all. So like I mentioned before in the videos, they like to act like they're bigger than they actually are, which is why they have plenty of confidence and plenty of willpower, but they're crazy. And so that's what we should really remember there. And as well as that, there was also like I was saying, another, I think on the same day as well, there's another another Palestinian pro-Palestine march as well. So they're always active. This actually comes back to the recommendations of Saul Alinsky in his book Rules for Radicals, where he talked about making sure that you always have the constant revolution, always have some sort of an issue, a constant stream of issues, that it's never ending. So it's never ending protests. So they always have something going on to keep that energy going. So what I always advocate for the nationalist movement in Ireland is for people to do the same thing, to always keep that energy going, copy what they're doing, but just do it on the right side. So when it comes to elections and thereabouts in Ireland, the next bit here now is you'll see an image of the nationalist candidates in Ireland, or where there's national candidates running for the European elections in the summer. There we go. So I'm just going to pause that there. So you can see pretty decent coverage. So you're talking about groups like the National Party, which is all over Ireland. And then you've got Derek Bly's group as well, Ireland First. His headquarters being down in the south. So that's not too bad there. And, you've got still the major parties, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Sinn Féin, the Green Party, Social Democrats, and so on. And the more nationalist groups, then you got the National Party and Ireland First. So they're trying to make a presence. So really the only thing that matters is, are people in Ireland, are enough people in Ireland willing to now understand that they should be going more nationalist in their thinking, not to be afraid of that word, not to be afraid of being called far right, and to have a more nationalistic approach, because that's the thing that's going to produce results. So when it comes to elections and thereabouts, when you're dealing with a bunch of crazy lefties and people who are corrupt and liars and deceivers, they're not going to fight fair. They're going to try to rig elections. They're going to try to swindle things as best they can, and they'll never give up. So you really want to try to win things by a landslide. And the only way to do that is to have strength in numbers. And the only way to do that is to convince everyone that nationalism is what's going to get them out of this mess and start to roll back the changes that have been brought in the last few years. So with that being said, there is an issue in Ireland with people kind of, supporting groups based on habits, or my dad voted for this party, so I'm going to do the same. We've always voted Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael, which are two of the mainstream parties. I think they're centre right or centre left, technically, by name, but it's nonsense. They're both traitor organisations. They're both globalist, and so people kind of tend to support those groups just because they have done so as a matter of tradition. So there's a clip coming up shortly of a guy standing up. Right, there we go. So this guy here stood up in some community meeting somewhere, and this is what he had to say.
Aidan Sampy is my name, and I'm standing in the local elections in June.
As an independent?
No, I'm standing for Fianna Fáil.
Fianna Fáil.
Let him speak. No, don't let them speak. So there's a lot of that going on in Ireland. People, just, you know, doing things without thinking. Now, he looked to me to be pretty serious, and he's pretty genuine there, absolutely. You see that look on his face, like rabbit in the headlights there. He's a little bit freaked out. Like, what do you mean? Why wouldn't you be Fianna Fáil? Now, on that note, with all that stuff, I mean, you've watched my videos before, I should know that my opinion and position on this stuff. Nationalism is the way out of this, and now by me saying that, you know, everyone thinks he's a knee-jerk for Fianna Fáil. I don't know. Some of those people might think that maybe Sinn Féin's a good option, or some other group who's not going to produce results either. So I'm fully aware of that, of course. But I'm just pointing out that there are plenty of people in Ireland stuck into these habits. And I mean, after everything that's happened, people are fooled by the names and the colours sometimes, right? So you got Fianna Fáil sounds Irish, you know, it's got Irish words. Fine Gael, Sinn Féin, they all sound pretty Irish, and they've got Irish people in them in there. They've got their logos and all this stuff. They got their history and all that, but none of that matters. You just look at policy. You look at what decisions they're making, what effects they're having, what are they actually doing, and that's part of what I think would break the illusion for a lot of people. So hopefully, you know, the nationalist parties can start to find a way of overcoming that. I think that would help. So this here is Simon Harris, is the new, probably going to be the new Taoiseach or Prime Minister taking over after Leo Varadkar. So Simon Harris has been in the game quite a while. This guy's been a central character. He was involved with a few things in a big way, like the whole COVID 1984 scamdemic, or COVID's 1984, I like to call it, and the Wuhan Institute of Virology conspiracy, and he was a big pusher of that, and a big player in the abortion referendum as well as 2018. So this is a couple of clips of him coming up, so you're going to get to know what he's like.
And to anybody who thinks this party is tired, to anyone who thinks this party lacks energy, you ain't seen nothing yet.
As you probably have heard today, I made an awful boo-boo on morning radio with the brilliant Lou McDonald and Darren Garrahy. I was trying to make the point that there have been lots of viruses in the world so far for which there hasn't been a vaccine found. And in being asked about a vaccine, I was trying to make that point that we can't just wait for a vaccine. We have to see how we can suppress the virus and live alongside the virus. And don't ask me how or why. I can only presume it's a degree of cabin fever after being in this department on a very, very regular basis for the very last while, maybe a bit of sleep deprivation. I stupidly talked about there being 18 other coronaviruses, which of course there isn't. So I can be an awful idiot at times. So
he wasn't too far off there, because they start making up all these new different variations left, right and centre. So maybe he was right. But yeah, this was during the height of the pandemic, wherever he thought maybe COVID-19 was something to do with the amount of variants. So he thought there was like 18 others or whatever.
My apologies for any confusion that caused, but the point I'm trying to make is lots of work is going on around the world to try and find a vaccine. And lots of research is going on, and Ireland wants to be involved in research and clinical trials at the appropriate time. But we have to accept the reality that this virus might be with us for quite a period of time, maybe for many months, maybe longer. And we have to try and get it to a safe enough level that we can try and live alongside the virus and get back to some degree of normality. So my apologies for making a stupid mistake this morning. Don't tell anybody, but I'm human, and it happens from time to time.
Friends and comrades.
So that guy is he is looking to might end up being the next Taoiseach. And he's got that grey hair going on. I think he's only like 37 now. Unless it's genetic. I'd like to see a picture of his old man or whatever. But that's grey hair. There's too much sugar and not enough protein for anyone's interest. It's usually what that is. And stress is another one, apparently, they say. But he doesn't look well. He looks ill. He really has changed a lot. Now, I don't know how many vaccines he took, but he doesn't look well at all now for his age. So the next clip here is something I saw on X. It was circulating around. I think it came from Gript Media and Ben Scanlon, but it was basically Ivana Bacik, who was at a Labour Party conference, and she used the word comrade quite a few times here. Won't you see this?
Friends and comrades, thank you very much. Comrades, elections over the next 12 months will shape the future of our country. Comrades, let us rise. If you believe in our vision, join us. Work with us. Vote Labour for an Ireland that works for all. Gura Mahagwar.
Jesus, right. So, I mean, I don't know how I make it any more clear to people, right? So, Labour Party, we know where the Labour Party's come from. They've got the colour red. It's been around a long time. They're all about workers' rights. We know that they're Marxist, right? People call it socialist, but it all comes from the Marxist ideology in the end. And they literally tell you, you know, using words like comrades, what a weird use to... word to use towards Irish audiences, but that's how they act. So here's another version that I saw. Someone did a funny version, taking the piss here.
Thank you very much. Comrades, elections over the next 12 months will shape the future of our country. Comrades, let us rise. If you believe in our vision, join us. Work with us. Vote Labour for an Ireland that works for all. Guramahawa.
And this next character then is, that's what you should do with them, is just take the piss and just highlight. So there you go, someone jumped right in with the Soviet national anthem. This next one goes, this is Aidan O'Riordan as well. This is from a while back. Because, you know, obviously, as I mentioned before as well, the Marxist cult members in Ireland were very, very happy and interested to see that the Catholic Church was kind of losing respect, and there was the paedophilia scandals and all this stuff, which they were all over, and which I believe as well, and other researchers believe that they helped to kind of manufacture themselves. So this is a clip of him talking about how to remove the kind of Catholicism from Irish society and schools and such.
We can't stand here and listen to stories about Magdalene laundries and mother and baby homes and still stand over the fact that so many schools and hospitals in this country are still under religious patronage. Let's get them out. And if it takes a referendum to do it, let's fight that referendum and let's win that referendum.
Right, so sorry about the audio on that one. That was in came through mono. I forgot to fix that. So he was just saying there about removing the influence of the Catholic Church from schooling, and that they even wanted to have a referendum to do that. So God, you know, not another one. So another referendum to push more Marxist ideas. This photograph here is what you're going to see, this new thing, and this is kind of what we all predicted. You got mass immigration, you got the political parties, mainstream political parties, using people from oppressed groups, migrant groups, to represent them. So this lady's name is I think Mami and Zema and Koi, who is obviously an African candidate for Sinn Fein, that is Sinn Féin, yeah. So that's so they're out canvassing, you know, they're getting ripped apart on Twitter as well. Right, so that's Sinn Féin again. So back to what I was talking about earlier. It's really a bit sad at this stage of the game, 2024 now, with everything that Marxism has done and all the trouble that it's causing around the world. Like I was saying earlier, there are some people a bit dozy in all countries, not just in Ireland, but in Ireland, the more dozy people will see Sinn Féin and vote for it because it's got the Irish name, it's got the tradition, you know, involve Irish republicanism, Irish liberation, quote unquote, and all that stuff, which is a big, huge story unto itself, and there's definitely Marxism involved there. But they'll go and support these groups because of their history and their label and so on. But you look at what they do. I mean, look at that, right? So Black Lives Matter, kneeling on the ground in honour of Mr. George Floyd, credit to humanity, and doing the Marxist clench fist, right? So you got 4 people doing the clench fist in the air, and you got the clench fist on the poster. Now, to a person who doesn't have a clue about Marxism and looks at that poster and all they've got in their head is Irishness and so on, they might just know it's Sinn Féin and the other bits and pieces and not understand the significance of it. But looking at that poster, the only thing Irish about it is the words Sinn Féin, we ourselves, right? Now, that is in itself is, you know, solidarity, we ourselves, we're in a group, right? So it's got Marxist connotations, even those words, even though it's the Irish language, it's Marxism 101. So look at those Egypts there. There's another one. So Sinn Féin supports the Palestinian people. So look at the flag, it's mostly red from right to left. It's got the Palestinian flag down the end, but the banner from the right hand side all the way on is all red. So the typical Marxist colour, just like the Labour Party earlier, right? So Sinn Féin, it's not their main colour, but still, so you see the colour straight away. They're supporting Palestine. You know that it's a Marxist group, Marxist revolutionary protest group. So not patriotic at all, really. Here's another one there about Sinn Féin. So standing up for trans youth. So that's the OGRA, or the youth wing Sinn Féin, I think. So standing up for trans youth, right? So there we go. So it's a pseudo patriotic party, really. That's what it is. It's not really a patriotic party at all. So there's another one, another person who is going to obviously represent, so they're working for Fianna Fáil. So they're going to run for Fianna Fáil in this election, the other mainstream party. So you're going to see this a lot, obviously, across Europe. It's been happening all over Europe. People have been highlighting this, how, you know, the majority of the leaders, you look at Ireland and the United Kingdom, all of the leaders, Leo Varadkar, Sadiq Khan in London, the Fabian Socialist Mayor of London, right up to Scotland. So all across the two islands, you have people leading, getting involved with politics who are not ethnically from that area and or have connections with these oppressed groups. So, you know, it makes sense. Someone like Leo Varadkar, he's gay, half Indian background. They're more inclined to help globalism, and that's why these people are being put into these positions and being supported to run. So what happens as well, you bring in massive amount of migrants, there's a big political consequence to that, because you bring in lots of people from one area who are not from that area. They're going to start to look after their own interests and look after their own groups at the expense of the locals. So that's this is also kind of par for the course as well with globalism. Now, this here is a clip from the Ardèche, or the party conference, the annual party conference of the Sinn Féin party, and this is Mary Lou McDonald, the party president, making a speech. There's just some bits and pieces here, so we'll just look over some of the things she's saying.
Special affinity with home binds us together. Home is where you are loved, secure, encouraged to reach your full potential. Home is where you belong. We want to build a new Ireland, a nation home for all, a unified nation of confidence and compassion, talent and ingenuity, claiming our future, our rightful place amongst the nations of the world. A new Ireland, the orange and green reconciled. No place for racism, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia or sectarianism. Where there is no them, only us. All of us who call Ireland home.
Right, so there you go. So solidarity. Home is only us. There's no other groups. There's only one group. So that's more Marxist talk. There's no difference between different groups. We're all equal. We're all the same. And we're going to create, a home for all of us together.
The epidemic of domestic and gender-based violence must be confronted. Women must be safe everywhere and at all times.
So there's another Marxist cause there, another Marxist sub-agenda of feminism.
We live in a global village. Planet Earth, our home, is burning. The climate crisis is real. The clock is ticking.
So there's a few things there that I'm going to mention. So just in a global village. Right now, first of all, there's no such thing as a global village. There's a village. Right, you have villages and you have a globe. There's no such thing as the global village. This is more globalist talk. Or you can't have a global village. It's a ridiculous notion. And obviously she's getting in climate changes. So the planet is burning up. So if you haven't all noticed, look, I'm on fire. We're all burning up right now, okay? We've been going on about this in a big way since the 70s, especially climate change. We're all still here. We're not burning up. And she's just banging another drum. So the whole climate change movement there.
Agriculture must be supported as it reduces emissions. The ecological catastrophe on Lough Neagh urgently requires a response based on public ownership. And we need a government with the drive to achieve energy independence. Offshore wind, solar and green hydrogen will spearhead Ireland's energy revolution.
So a few Marxist key points. He's talking about public ownership as well. So socialism, that people as a population can control the resources and so on. She talked about a bunch of different renewable energy sources there. Now anyone with half a brain can see if you're Irish and you're talking about using solar panels, you need your head examined, because you couldn't power a light bulb in this country 365 days a year with solar. As for wind, well, still, you'd have to stick 1 million of those wind turbines all over and ruin the place, spend billions sticking them offshore, and it still wouldn't be efficient for Irish energy needs. So another Marxist talking point, which is a typical.
The Palestinian people have a right to their homeland. Having endured generations of dispossession, occupation, oppression, apartheid, human rights violations that should shake humanity. Ireland.
So there's another few talking points there. So apartheid as well. That's another classic. So we look at what happened in South Africa. It was better off staying the way it was under apartheid when you had Marxism got into the picture. Now Marxism was in Africa for the whole 20th century, ruined the whole continent, ruined it, and that was thanks to black intellectuals, by the way, who mostly did that. They always blame on colonialism, and the lefties are always trying to blame it on that. But Marxism ruined Africa. It ruined South Africa. When they ended apartheid, it was more about a black majority rule, and people like Nelson Mandela, who was a convicted Marxist terrorist, and ran the place into the ground, which you're doing now. So what she's doing here, she's trying to equate, banging that old drum of apartheid, equating it to what's happened in Palestine as well, going over the usual talking points like I was talking about in a previous video, that the Palestinians are oppressed and the Israeli are the oppressors, and that's all there is to it, really.
Is changing, and we are ready to lead. Sinn Féin is the largest party in the Assembly and in local government in the north. Our ambition to lead government in the south. A new government without Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil for the first time in 100 years. Imagine that.
They're going to be worse.
We will house our people. We will make healthcare accessible to all. We will win the race against climate change. And friends, in our time, we will unite our country and build a nation home for everyone.
So she's literally saying to people there, build a home for everyone. So how many people are they planning to bring in exactly? So like I mentioned before in previous videos, when you look at the population of sub-Saharan African countries, and you look at the population figures there, and Nigeria is like 230 million or something like that. And you're there, in the tens and hundreds of millions in that part of the world, and the Middle East as well. How many is enough, right? So she wants to house everybody. So another thing about Marxists is that they don't understand economics. They just understand from a Marxist point of view. That's why they will always insist that you can still keep bringing in migrants. It's not going to really affect anything. There's plenty of resources. We need to take them off the rich, blah, blah, blah. And that's why you've got in Coolock where they're trying to stick 500 asylum seekers, quote unquote, into an old factory or whatever. They're trying to pack them in like sardines with no plan for anything, a plan for how it's going to affect the crime levels, about utilities and so on. It's just a rotten idea, and that's what they're detached from reality because they're trying to build utopia. So whatever happens in the short term, it's going to be worth it in the end. So that's all just typical. This guy was at a Palestine march, so I thought I'd mention this here. So Chucky our law was the kind of catchphrase of the IRA, the Irish Republican Army, which is intertwined for most of its history with the Marxist movement in Ireland and Sinn Féin as well. So they are kind of purely nationalist for a very short part of their history, and then they went all Marxist. Then it was a big struggle against the bourgeois oppressing Brits and the poor proletariat Irish Catholics. So it was a really kind of very Marxist tone. So this guy here is at a Palestinian march. Allah! Chucky Allah! Chucky Allah! He doesn't even sound Irish actually. So in this next section here, I'm just going to talk about a few different things. So about cultural appropriation and so on. So this is the Ceann Comhairle, or the speaker in the Irish Parliament, right, in the Dáil, and he was just making some points here about his thoughts on how Ireland has changed and mass immigration and so on.
I call the Minister, we've had, I think, maybe unnecessarily acrimonious debate over the last while, because I can only say this. I grew up in a country that was practically monocultural and practically mono-ethnic. I'm glad that my adult children have grown to adulthood in a country that is multi-ethnic. I believe that the Ireland that we live in today is enriched by the people who have come here through the visa system and that have come here seeking a better standard of living for themselves and their families, as Irish people did in so many other parts of the world. I believe passionately.
I'll just dismantle that first of all. So he's just gone through the usual globalist waffle here and saying that's enriched the country, right? So, and he brought up that classic point as well, trying to equate the modern mass immigration situation with what's happened in the past with Irish immigrants. And I've kind of addressed this before. They do this all the time. And this is what happens when people are brainwashed with Marxism. They can't tell the difference. They're so obsessed with equality, they can't distinguish between one thing and another. So they're trying to equate mass immigration in Ireland, Irish people going abroad to other countries, the same as thousands and thousands of migrants coming in from Africa and the Middle East, and many of them now sleeping on tents and being put into factories, right? They can't distinguish between one thing, one historical situation and another.
That we're seeing a phenomenon that will continue and grow of migration from the developing countries to the developed world, where we need people to work.
First of all, no, it won't continue because things are changing, and we're going to make sure that we stop that. And here we go, is another classic here.
Where we need people to work in our health services and right across the whole economy. And it behoves us
justification
as politicians, all of us, to find a way to work together to build consensus and support for that, not to build division and resentment.
That's actually a key point there, because he's saying that we're pretty much admitting there the role of the government is to try to convince people to do things their way, right? So just assuming that the general public and the Irish people don't know what they're talking about or what they're doing, and these crowd know better.
And it behoves government to support you, Minister, in a whole of government approach, so that you can achieve the objectives that we all know you have.
Well, his attitude is really typical of what you'd expect from someone in that role anyway, so no real shocker there. So this next clip is I found on Twitter. So there's a girl, things like an art exhibition or something like that. So we'll just see what's going on here now, right? So just watch this. Just pay attention to the music and the way she dances.
Shut down the city, won't see us again.
Right, so the music is like jungly music, I suppose, right? And the dancing style is 1 minute she's one thing, mixing a bit of contemporary, a bit of salsa or whatever, and whatever else move she's doing, mixed in with Irish dancing as well. God, so cringe.
He say, Mamacita, very nice to meet ya. See you as a leader. Can I take you deeper? Or you give me fever?
Absolutely brain dead lyrics.
Over me and my dogs. Test driving all of these different cars. Don't need to say, you know who we are.
Jeez.
Can you believe that we made it this far?
Look at those idiots in the background smiling as well. This is what you call the bastardization of the arts and culture. Here we go, yeah, cheer and clap like idiots, yeah. Totally oblivious to what they just saw. Right, so that's it seems like a kind of a trivial thing, but it's actually quite serious, because you've got it's a cultural thing, right? So can you imagine some white people going to an African country or somewhere else and trying to mix white or Western culture mixed in with black culture? You imagine the uproar, and a lot of the crazy lefties and so on will be saying that it's disrespectful. We've done enough to overpower their culture. It's not right, but this is okay. So obviously, this is one of the things I talk about as well in my work, is that Marxism creates degeneration in the arts. It creates appropriation, this multicultural nonsense where they start mixing things in together. So now the arts and entertainment is not about greatness or creativity or kind of innovation anymore. It's all about just creating these mixtures of different cultures, and everything ends up being the same. So it does create equality in a way. Everything ends up being equally shit. So I mean, that was, I've seen people dance before. She's got technical ability. The music is absolutely rotten. It adds nothing. It just makes a statement of multiculturalism. That's all, and that's typical what happens when you have a Marxist infection, that the arts goes down to rubbish. So the next clip here is this is an imam speaking in Dublin, right? He's just speaking to some Muslims here.
Nothing wrong in coming in this country for fulus, for finances. Nothing wrong. Anybody said that's wrong? He doesn't know Islam. It's only wrong if you come for fulus and for that you give up your identity, your deen, your Islam. That is haram. That is forbidden. Then you should be ashamed. If you come here and you say, I am Qadiani, I am a Mirzai in Pakistan and they are killing me, and you are lying, that's haram. You're giving up your religion. But if you're coming in as an asylum seeker for any other reason, you're not giving up your identity. You are proudly Muslim. And you come here, even for passport, khair, it's perfectly fine. The best migration is for Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But the best migration is for Allah and His Rasul. The best migration is for Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But anything else, it's not haram. It's not forbidden.
That reminds me, I did an interview years ago with Dr. Bill Warner talking about how mass immigration with Muslims is a form of jihad in a way, because it's kind of cultural. It's a way of exerting dominance in the end, because obviously the whole point of Islam is to make the world Muslim, right? To have an Islamic caliphate. And when you hear talk like that, he actually hinted at it there that migration helps Islam because it spreads the word, and that's what's happening. We're starting to see the increasing kind of dominance of Muslim groups marking their territory. So this is in Dublin, right? Garda there doing his job, facilitating destruction of his own country. Look at that, it's like a market different part of the world. That was an Irish person there. And this is in Paris. So they're out on the streets now. Look at that. Taking up the whole street. And what else would you call that? People going crazy there, right? So the French are expected to just take that, obviously. So can they not just pray somewhere else? This proves that's nothing to do. Look at that. So it proves that this is nothing to do with religious freedom or personal choice. This is about making a statement, and people being allowed to do that. It's ludicrous that they're allowed to do that. You just go and do it somewhere else. You need a piece of ground to pray. Go and do it in the mosque, do it at home or wherever. How do they feel about what they're doing? Do they not care? Or do not feel like an idiot doing that. So some, again, people don't see the connection between this and what's happening with Marxist activism and globalism, is that there's actually a connection between, it's called Islamo-communism, and it's historical as well, that even though they sound like unlikely partners, because Marxists are ostensibly atheist and they're very materialistic and so on, whereas Muslims, obviously being Muslim and believing in God and deistic, is very central to their whole belief system. So you would think, how can they have a connection? But there is a connection going back in the past with them. And Islamo-socialism, Marxism, had a big impact in the Middle East as well. And there is an alliance between them. That's why you see the double standard. So, the attack on Christianity has been quite, a big deal. The Marxists are very happy to see the back of Christianity, but while they simultaneously facilitate the Islamification of the West as well. So this is something we need to keep an eye on, because for several reasons as well. Another one is demographics. So you've got massive amounts of Muslims coming in. Remember, there's a differential here between Western populations and Muslim populations. Muslim populations, they don't have any LGBTQ, trans, non-binary. There's no feminism, there's no abortion, there's none of that stuff. Women have babies, and they have them from a young age. Compared to their Western counterparts, they have more kids and they start younger. So if you bring in massive amounts of Muslims into a country like Ireland, and that process is already beginning, they're going to easily outbreed the Westerners. So then you have, what's called then eventually have the tipping point, they call it. The amount of Muslims increases so much, they start getting more political power. We're already seeing that in Ireland, and they start to move towards making the country more Muslim progressively. And you have calls for Sharia law and so on, which would kind of shock a lot of people in the West trying to live under Sharia law. So this is just another example. This issue has been going on for a while. It's not going to go away, and it's just one of the consequences of mass immigration. So this last bit here as well, just what I was just speaking about there, the whole differential between Western countries and the Eastern countries, and what I call now the new communist alliance of Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, and so on. There's a differential being created. So the Western countries are being progressively destroyed with Marxism, and in those other countries, it's not like that at all, right? So here we go. So reported by Reuters on March 22nd, Russia adds LGBT movement to list of extremist and terrorist organizations. So look at that, incredible, right? So Russia has added what it calls the LGBT movement to a list of extremist and terrorist organizations, state media said on Friday. The move was in line with a ruling by Russia's Supreme Court last November that LGBT activists should be designated as extremists, a move that representatives of gay and transgender people said they feared would lead to arrests and prosecutions. So it's absolutely unbelievable. So they're allowed free reign in these countries, but the minute you decide to do put any of that sort of shit in those countries, you're just completely stopped with extreme prejudice. And the reason why, it's actually pretty obvious. The reason why is that it creates weakness when these movements are allowed to develop. It creates a differential, right? So this stuff is not allowed in those countries because it creates weakness. It creates militarily weak countries, which are then which are easy to take over. So that's why it's not allowed over there, but it's allowed in the West. So other bits and pieces as well. So the list is maintained by an agency called Rostering Monitoring that has powers to freeze the bank accounts of more than 14,000 people and entities designated as extremists. So wow, so it's incredible that even though in the West the kind of control that the state might use against right-wing, quote-unquote, or far-right groups in the West is being used against Marxist groups in those countries, right? So it's the same level of totalitarianism, just applied in a different way. So absolutely incredible. So that's all for this one, folks. Thanks for watching. Please do like, share and subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss any videos. So just to go over the socials here to finish up then. So @ResolvingOr, if you want to get in touch on Twitter. Or group and Telegram. I haven't really started to use that. Yeah, I'm just trying to get some numbers, so there's nothing really going on in there just yet. So that's Rumble as well, just having the backup channel going on, so you can find me on Rumble. Odyssey as well, Resolving Reality, and Gab as well. I'm just going to build that up in the background too. If anyone's on Gab, follow me there. That's for live streams, Entropy, more live streams with DLive. And then also that's the email address, so really really important, this one. So if anyone's got any suggestions for content or guests that you want me to cover, send me an email there, and secure email, Proton Mail. So contact protonmail.com. So thanks very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.